On this Friday night, in her own words, the woman at the centre of the Hockey Canada sex assault trial testifies what she says happened at a London, Ontario bar, setting the date when Canada's Prime Minister and the American President will meet.
I will fight for the best deal for Canada.
And the federal Conservative leader's plan to regain a seat, putting faces to graves.
This person who is lying here, he feels like family to me.
The volunteers sharing the stories of fallen Canadian soldiers, plus the Canadian mastermind behind the body horror genre.
I guess that's my legacy.
David Croninberg on making movies about death and darkness and why he chose to stay in Canada.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Colleen Christie.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with emotional and important testimony from a London, Ontario courtroom. For the first time, we're hearing from the woman who alleges 5 former World Junior hockey players sexually assaulted her. Alex Formenton, Cal Foote, Michael McLeod, Dillon, Dube, and Carter Hart have each pleaded not guilty. She told the jury how she met some of them at a bar before going to a local hotel. Global's Sean O'Shea was in court and has the details and a warning. Some of them are graphic in nature. Sean.
Colleen, jurors in this high-profile trial finally got to see and hear from the woman making allegations. The female complainant in this sexual assault trial of 5 former members of Canada's 2018 World Junior Hockey team began testifying on Friday. Her privacy is protected. We can only refer to her as EM. She testified by video link. She was asked about the night of June 18, 2018, when she went with a friend to a bar named Jack's in London. There, she said she met Michael McLeod, but didn't know his name until the next day. He and the other defendants had been given their junior hockey championship rings that day. EM met and danced with McLeod. She testified she had already consumed 2 coolers beforehand. As the night wore on, she said she was progressively drunk. At Jack's, consuming a vodka, a beer, and 8 Jagerbomb shots with McLeod and others. Prosecutors showed video from the dance floor where EM said she danced with McLeod and other players. She testified about the players circling her with the music playing. They would move my hand to touch their crotch area, she said, adding she was awkwardly going along with it, feeling it was a bit much, just trying to dance and have fun. Outwardly, it appeared I was all right. There was a part of me thinking it was a lot. Prosecutors say EM went back to McLeod's hotel room. They say she was sexually assaulted there by the 5 defendants. The woman's account of what happened in that room will be central to this trial, according to a lawyer not connected with the case.
What the defense is going to be doing is cutting holes in the credibility and the reliability of EM, because ultimately it's going to be her version of events that the jury should put a lot of weight on.
Break the silence!
Before testimony began, protesters held up signs. They say they came to support the female complainant.
It's important that the survivor know that we believe her and we stand with her.
I've been with survivors when they've had to testify, and it is horrific.
This woman is incredibly courageous to come out now and make these charges.
End the violence!
Members of the group chanted as each one arrived. EM will be questioned on why she left that bar and went to that hotel room, and the most important question of all that the jury has to answer, did she in fact provide consent? Colleen.
Sean O'Shea in London, Ontario. Thanks, Sean. In Ottawa today, Prime Minister Mark Carney laid out his minority government's priorities in an all-encompassing news conference, Carney's first since being elected on Monday. He also announced a trip to Washington next week, along with a royal visit at the end of the month. As Mackenzie Gray reports, it's all part of a Canadian reset Carney says is needed during a time of crisis.
Mr. Carney?
For the Prime Minister, there was no post-election pause.
On Tuesday, I had a very constructive call with President Trump, and we agreed to meet next Tuesday in Washington.
Carney's trip to the Oval Office, a critical opportunity to build upon what seems to be a Canada-U.S. reset.
No, well, I think we're going to have a great relationship, but he's a very nice gentleman.
But the Prime Minister attempted to play down what could come out of the meeting with Trump, warning tariffs are unlikely to be lifted next week.
Do not expect white smoke out of that meeting. There'll be white smoke probably later somewhere else in the world this month.
That softer tone from Carney on Friday, a contrast with his election night speech.
President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us.
Your Majesty.
To project strength over Canadian sovereignty, Carney bringing in a special guest to open Parliament with the throne speech in late May.
I made the request of His Majesty, and he has accepted.
As being essential to Canada's continuing existence as a free and democratic society.
The last time Canada's head of state did this nearly 50 years ago, when Queen Elizabeth came to Ottawa.
Clearly underscores the sovereignty of our country.
Domestically, Carney, reiterating his pledge to remove all internal trade barriers by Canada today, set up a new housing agency and put forward a budget with income tax cuts.
As we embark on the biggest transformation of our economy since the end of the Second World War.
Even promising changes that sound straight out of the Conservative platform.
We will toughen the criminal code and bail laws for those threatening the safety of Canadians, including making bail harder to get.
Carney also announcing he'll name a new cabinet that will be gender balanced during the week of May 12th, Colleen, and the House of Commons will be back on the 26th.
And Mackenzie, we now know how Pierre Poilievre hopes to have a seat in the House of Commons.
Yeah, we do, Colleen, and the Conservatives this time are taking no chances that Pierre Poilievre could lose his seat a second time, tapping Damien Curick from Battle River Crowfoot to give up one of the safest Conservative seats in Alberta so Poilievre can run in a by-election. Now, it's Mark Carney who decides the date of that by-election, and he could have held off until December, delaying the Conservative leader's chance to debate him in Parliament, but he told Poilievre he'd call the by-election ASAP.
If it's the decision of him and the Conservative Party to trigger, if I can put it that way, a by-election, I will ensure that it happens as soon as possible.
Okay.
No games, nothing, straight.
Now, Carney's 4 seats short of a majority, and he'll need opposition support to pass legislation. But on Friday, he ruled out the possibility of cutting a formal deal with the NDP like Justin Trudeau did, Colleen, although he did duck questions on if he's looking to poach opposition MPs to cross the floor to the Liberals.
Mackenzie Gray in Ottawa. Thanks, Mackenzie. Workers in Oshawa, Ontario are taking a direct hit from U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff war. A shift on a production line at the GM plant there is being cut. Karen Lieberman reports on reaction from the auto sector and calls for the new Prime Minister to forcefully step up to Trump.
The reality of U.S. tariffs is now setting in, with 700 workers at this Oshawa plant facing layoffs.
These jobs are going south because of a 47th President of the United States and his ignorant, malicious tariff policy that makes absolutely no sense. And we are not going to lie down and let these jobs disappear.
General Motors said it plans to return to a 2-shift operation at the plant in light of forecasted demand and the evolving trade environment.
This is a decision to basically appease Donald Trump by shifting some of the work that would have occurred at our Oshawa assembly plant to south of the border, and that's not acceptable to us.
Last month, President Donald Trump slapped a 25% tariff on all vehicle imports to the U.S. The Oshawa plant assembles Chevrolet Silverado trucks, which are also produced in Mexico and the U.S.
The auto industry is an ecosystem that works really well between Canada and the United States. It's so intertwined. This is a disruption not only for my community, but communities in the United States. It doesn't make any good economic sense.
On Thursday, Stellantis announced it plans to shut down its assembly plant in Windsor for a week beginning Monday, suggesting it's preparing for 2026 models. But it also closed for 2 weeks last month.
You know, we need support for Mark Carney to step up, meet with Donald Trump and say, you know what, enough with your tariffs, enough with your threats.
The Prime Minister will meet with the President next Tuesday. In his first major press conference since the election, he said his government is committed to supporting the auto sector.
All the dollars from our tariffs going to support workers, fighting hard for our auto sector, all our sectors, in these negotiations with the Americans.
The shift will be eliminated in the fall. An additional 1,500 supply chain workers could be affected. Karen Lieberman, Global News, Toronto.
A BC judge has ordered mental health professionals to assess whether the suspect in last weekend's street festival attack in Vancouver is fit for trial. Kaiji Adam Lowe made a video appearance in court today. The 30-year-old faces 8 counts of second-degree murder, with more charges expected. 11 people have died. 13 people are still being treated in hospital, 4 in critical condition after a car plowed through a crowd at the Lapu Lapu Day Festival on Saturday. Today, the province marked a day of remembrance and mourning for the victims. The U.S. closes a lucrative tariff loophole. Coming up, why Canadian companies could benefit. Iconic Canadian filmmaker David Croninberg has gained international acclaim for his unusual and disturbing films exploring horrific violations of the human body. His latest movie, The Shrouds, is in theaters now. It's his most personal and emotional film yet. Our Eric Sorensen sat down with Croninberg to discuss the movie and his legacy of body horror.
It is an impressive body of work, pun intended. David Croninberg inspired an entire genre of film known as body horror, not his favorite description.
I've never used that term to describe my own work, but it has stuck, and I'm stuck with it.
He only has himself to blame. As a child, Croninberg saw The Fly, the 1958 original, and other films that fascinated him about life and death and what happens to the human body.
My understanding of human existence is body is reality. And then you consider that death is inevitable. And if you're an atheist like me, you consider that death is oblivion. I mean, it is the end of you. You disappear. We put all that together, and you have my movies.
His first commercial film, Shivers, was low budget, but distinctly Cronenbergian, full of, this kind of thing. As a young director, it was hard to finance his type of film in Canada in the 1970s.
Something that was fantastic and perverse and dark was perhaps not Canadian, or it just didn't know what to do with it.
He was prepared reluctantly to go to Hollywood.
I took the idea of my first movie, Shivers, to the U.S., and I thought, okay, I'm maybe going to have to move to the U.S. Got back to Toronto to discover that the Canadian Film Development Corporation, that they would put money into Shivers. That's what kept me in Canada. Otherwise, I would have been an American filmmaker.
Cronenberg stayed home, but his films didn't. They became a sensation, to put it mildly. Scanners, Videodrome, and his own version of The Fly, which became a classic.
He wants to turn me into something else. That's not too terrible, is it?
Hollywood hardly knew what to make of him.
Even Marty Scorsese, and this is the man who made Taxi Driver, was nervous to meet me because he had seen my films and he expected me to be a maniac.
The maniacs were only on film, figments of Cronenberg's stylistic imagination. To him, it was fiction, nothing serious. He once feigned mock outrage in a promo.
And the films are uncut with disturbing orifices and bizarre bodily fluids. I mean, I have a very, very weak stomach for this sort of thing.
Over time, he directed films with more realism, less sci-fi, still dissecting human nature and dark impulses with a side of mutilation.
You tell me, how dark are you willing to go?
His latest film, The Shrouds, is about the loss of a loved one, coupled with themes of decay and voyeurism.
It's basically a kind of camera in her grave.
The death of my wife was the instigator of this movie.
Cronenberg lost his wife of 38 years, Carolyn, in 2017, and the film's protagonist bears a resemblance to himself, but it's not, he says, autobiographical. The appreciation for his craft has only grown, the psychology and human frailties that underpin the so-called body horror.
Made a career out of bodies.
After 50 years of filmmaking, it's hard to deny the label Cronenberg knows too well. He was contacted by the New York Times recently for his obituary.
And she said, in the first paragraph, there's gonna be the term body horror. I said, I understand. So I guess that's my legacy.
Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
Tomorrow on Global National, more of Eric's conversation with David Croninberg, including the challenges he faced starting out in the film industry. Next, putting faces to graves, the project to honor fallen Canadian heroes in the Netherlands. Firefighters took to the roof of the Vatican Sistine Chapel today, preparing the chimney for those important smoke signals to come during conclave. The secret vote among cardinals to determine the next pope begins next Wednesday. The smoke will come from their ballots burned after each round of voting. Black smoke indicates no decision has been made. White means a new pontiff has been selected. Over the next several days, the Dutch are commemorating the liberation of the Netherlands from Nazi occupation and Canada's critical contribution. 80 years ago, Canadian soldiers helped drive German troops out of the country. Today, veterans were part of a ceremony at Groesbeck Canadian War Cemetery. Mike Armstrong is in the Netherlands and reports on an effort by volunteers in both countries to give fallen troops their stories back.
You came here at least once a year, sometimes more often.
More often.
For your whole life?
Yeah.
It is a tradition passed down from Saskia Peter's parents to honor someone they never knew. Ivan Matheson was born and raised in Windsor, Ontario. But when he was killed fighting to liberate the Netherlands, the Peters wanted his sacrifice remembered.
This grave is in my heart. This person who is lying here, he feels like family to me.
Now, for most of her life, Peters knew little about the life of Ivan Matheson. He was just a name picked by her parents, one out of more than 2,600 buried at the Groesbeek Canadian War Cemetery. Well, that changed in 2015 when she heard about a group called Faces to Graves. It had already compiled photos and information about Matheson in a digital memorial, along with the background on hundreds of other soldiers in the cemetery. Elise von Beckham heads up the project.
Yeah, we like to tell the story, more or less paint the picture of the soldier, who he was, where he lived, where he died. If we tell their stories, they will not be forgotten. That's our goal.
Now, the photographs aren't normally on display. They're up for the 80th anniversary of the liberation for 3 weeks. But the work coordinating 30 researchers goes year-round. Von Beckham puts in more hours than she cares to admit, but says, in a way, she doesn't have a choice.
I grew up with my family in freedom. And if I don't say enough thank you to the people who gave me this freedom, I don't feel well.
One of the group's researchers lives south of Calgary. Jim Little started by looking into the life of a soldier with the same family name and has now written 290 biographies.
Yeah, it's kind of addictive. As Ellis likes to say, I think I got bit by the Faces to Grave bug.
The group now has the stories of more than 1,000 soldiers and the photographs of about 1,800.
It really makes my heart sing.
Canadian veteran Glenn Miller says seeing the faces beside the stones changes the feeling.
It really brings to life that stone. The stone is gray and cold, but by having just a simple picture brings it to life.
He lived in my head.
The project has also changed Peter's life. She's not only passing down the tradition honoring Matheson's sacrifice to the next generations of her family, she's actually now met and is friends with Matheson's family in Canada. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Groesbeek, the Netherlands.
Tomorrow on Global National, a parade to honor the Canadians involved in the war effort. Mike will speak to veterans about their pivotal role to help liberate the Dutch from Nazi occupation. And that's Global National for this Friday night. I'm Colleen Christie. Tonight's Your Canada showcases the Confederation Building in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador, some very Canadian lawn ornaments in Lee Creek, BC, and a patriotic dog in Edmonton. Thanks for watching. Sarah McDonald will be at the anchor desk tomorrow. Have a great night.